Hey everybody, this is Tracy here to recap This Is Us. It's season 1 and episode 2, which was entitled The Big Three. So the show opens with the kids looking to be about 10 years old or maybe a little younger, and it's breakfast time, and it becomes evident to us that Kate has been battling her weight issues all of her life, and Rebecca doesn't seem to be helping in any way. And so the family has a cute little cheer that they do before Jack heads off to work, and he tells everybody to take a deep breath, and then he says his little part, and then he goes around the table, and then Kevin says, and then came me, and then Kate says, and then me, and then they go over to Randall, and he says, and me, and then they all together, they all yell, you know, the big three. So I thought that was cute. Keep the kids motivated and off to a good start in the mornings. It was the current day, and Kate and Toby are at the gym working out, and that may have been, the flashback scene may have been Kate reminiscing over that breakfast scene, because we find out that Rebecca, you know, she gives her plain cereal and fruit instead of the Fruity Pebbles everybody else is eating. And she keeps harping on the fact that Kate needs to watch her weight. And so Kate asks Toby, you know, why is it that he's losing weight but she isn't? And so he tells her that it's because he's taking it more serious than she is. And so he realizes that, you know, he may have hurt her feelings. And so, you know, he tells her that he was just joking. So we go over to Randall's, and it's the middle of the night, and Beth wants to know how long is his crack addict biological daddy, also known as William, is going to be sleeping in their 6-year-old's bedroom. And so I was thinking, wow, Beth, that was so cold of you. So Randall tells her that, you know, she really needs to censor herself, you know, but Beth just wants to know what the end game is. And it's been, you know, 3 days already that William has been there. And so Randall says that, you know, he wants him to stay there until he can get him to a doctor to check him out and see what's going on with the stomach cancer that William says that he was diagnosed with. And so, you know, he also lets Beth know that William is a recovering crack addict. He's not a crack addict, and that, you know, there is a big difference. So later on at Randall's house, he and Beth overhear William talking to the girls about his past and explaining to them what vices are. And so when he tells them that his vice is cocaine, you know, they storm into the room and like, okay, that's enough, you know, time for the girls to go to bed. And so after the girls leave the room, you know, William thanks them for letting him stay, you know, for as long as they have, and that if he's overstayed his welcome, you know, he wants them to let him know, because he doesn't want to be a burden on anybody. And so he asks Randall for a few dollars for the bus, and, you know, the camera goes over to Beth, and you can tell that she's immediately thinking that he wants the money to go buy drugs. So next we have another flashback scene, and this time it's Jack and his best friend Miguel, and they're having drinks at a bar. And so Miguel is checking Jack, you know, for questioning his relationship with Rebecca. So this is the first sign that there may have been problems between Jack and Rebecca. And so he reminds Jack that, you know, Rebecca is very loyal and a great mother, you know, to their 8-year-old kids. And I guess this is part of where the man doesn't think his wife is sexy anymore, you know, after she has the baby, and, you know, they're no longer free to do whatever they want to. Because remember, when the show first opened in the premiere series, you know, they had Jack and Rebecca, and she was pregnant, but he was all in love with her, thought she was beautiful and sexy, and, you know, he was trying to have sex with her and everything. So I guess now that, you know, she's raising those kids, she's not as appealing to him, and, you know, he wants to gripe and complain about her. So Miguel, you know, he also points out to Jack that it's only 5:03 p.m. and that he's already on his second bourbon. So baby Jack is developing a drinking problem also. So over to Kevin, and he pulls up to an office building, and when he comes up, he's riding in the Jeep, and he has like some rap music blasting. And so he jumps out of the Jeep, and there's a guy standing there, and I don't know if he's like a valet who parks the vehicles or if he's just like a concierge there, that stands at the door and greet people. And so Jack, who calls out to the guy, he's like, hey, Victor, how's it been? And then the guy looks at him and he says, I've been Hector. So, he didn't even know the guy's name, but he's acting like they're all buddy. And so Kevin is talking to the guy like they are long lost friends, but it's obvious that the guy has no clue who he is. We learned that the building that Kevin is at is actually houses the office of his talent agent. And so everyone in the meeting, they're all in business attire but Kevin, and his agent is actually a woman, and I can't remember what her name is, but I think we learned later on in the show that she's like a real powerful agent in the entertainment industry. And so, she is tearing Kevin a new one for the stunt that he pulled on the set of the show and for quitting. And so she reminds him that, when she met him, he was a horrible comedian, playing at some no-name club, and that, she built his career, and that she turned him into someone who could wear a ski cap in 80-degree weather and nobody thinks anything of it. And then she's like so irritated by him, and she was like, well, you take that stupid cap off, and she pulls the cap off his head. So I think Kevin knows that she means business at this point. So they're there at the meeting, to strategize on how to get Kevin back on the show and to save his career, and they let Kevin know that he's contractually obligated to the show for the next 2 years, and that means that even if he doesn't go back to the show, the network pretty much owns him, and that he can't do anything over the course, until he fulfills the contract. So they technically own him. He can't go off and do any movies. He can't sign on to do commercials, photo shoots, nothing. Everything that he does has to be approved by the network execs until that contract expires. And so Kevin goes to Kate's house afterwards, to cry on her shoulder and let her know, what happened at the meeting. And he basically tells her that the execs are having a party that night, and that his agent, expects him to be there and wants him to apologize. And so Kate tells him to go to the party and tell the execs that Manny out, like don't cave in to the pressure, let them know that you're done. And so, Kevin asked her, what did he ever do for those first 2 minutes before she was born? And so, I thought that was really cute. And so, Kate told him that he cried and he crapped on himself. And so I was like, I think they like have a closer bond than they have with Randall, because they are actually biological. Well, I guess when one triplet passes away, then that makes the surviving two twins. Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Kevin lets Kate know that she has to come to the party with him and that they are going to have a great time. Then later on, we have Kate, and she's at her weight support group, and she is not in a happy mood at all. And so she's listening to the other people, and they're, going around the room talking about their weight successes. And so Kate goes off the deep end when Madison, who's the girl that has the anorexia or bulimia or something, and I think she may have gained a couple of pounds, which was a good, good thing for her. And so Kate cuts her off and pretty much tells her that, she is skinny and only weighs 105 pounds and she can't possibly have problems. And then she moves on to another lady who said something about, she had a small victory by when she went to Wendy's, she didn't get the hamburger or something. And so Kate is just really being mean spirited. So, Toby kind of cuts in and he, tells them, okay, I think it's time to have a break. And so, when the group breaks up, he goes to Kate. So, he pretty much checks Kate and tell her that, her behavior was totally offensive and that, she shouldn't have treated the other people like that. And then Kate reveals to him that, she's depressed because she went to look for a dress for Kevin's party and she couldn't find anything to fit her. And Toby just like totally overlooks that, and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to the party too. And so, he tells her that, they are heading to boyfriend-girlfriend mode and that she needs to get over the weight issue because he needs to go to that party and not focus on his weight. That, basically, you can't just be so consumed with the weight. You still have to live your life and try to be happy and do things that you enjoy. Over to Randall's. It's late at night when William returns to the house, and so he comes through the door, and they were sitting there watching TV, and they look up at him, and they say hi to him, and he tells them that he's tired, and he thinks he's just going to go up and go straight to bed. And so we have another flashback scene, and it is a young Kate, and Rebecca is putting her to bed, and she shares that she ate her fruit today. So, she's letting Rebecca know that she did what she was supposed to do, to try and help with her weight loss. And so Rebecca, asks her if she's happy. And Kate says for the most part that she is. And then as Rebecca is about to, continue to talk with Kate, the moment is interrupted with Kevin and Randall when they start to fight in another room. And so Rebecca rushes in to break it up, and Kevin says that everyone thinks he's weird, because he has a black brother. And then Randall asks Rebecca, to make Kevin promise to be nice to him. And so she tells Randall, promise her that, he'll always be, a good child. So after Rebecca get the boys settled down, Jack comes home and he has a gift for Rebecca. And so he hands her the gift, but I don't think she ever opens the box. And so she asks him, how does he think that they're doing as parents? And he was like, well, I think we're doing pretty good. And so she's like, well, no, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, we're at about a 6. And so she said alone that she thinks she's a 9, and that when he's present and actually dealing with the kids, he's a 10. And it kind of bothers her that even though she thinks they're a 6 together, that when they rate each other individually, that he still rates higher than her as a parent. And so I thought that was a good analogy, that she uses, on rating each other. And so she, confronts him about the drinking and says that she's tired of him lowering their parent score. And I was like, wow, that was a wake-up call for him. And so later in the show, Miguel calls Jack, to apologize to him for the way, he talked to him at the bar earlier, but Jack is sitting on the sofa and he's sulking over his conversation with Rebecca, and I guess it's kind of hard for somebody to tell you that, you're not holding your own and doing, what you're supposed to do. And I guess, men kind of have it easy because the woman is there, she's taking care of the kids, taking care of the household. And then he comes home and the kids are happy, so happy that he's there, that he gets the benefit of the doubt for having not been there the better part of the day. And the kids, see him as the fun person. And then on the flip side, he is the one that's out there, the breadwinner, trying to make the money to support the family. So it's kind of, it's kind of like a wavering scale there. So back at Kate's, Toby arrives for the party and he's all decked out like, he's trying to apply for a role at a 50s movie. And so at the party, he forces Kate to relax and enjoy herself because, of course, she's feeling insecure and she thinks that everybody's staring at them and laughing at them and making fun, because they're the overweight people. And remember, we're in Hollywood, I guess it is, and they everybody's skinny and model-esque and, looking good. And so she's really like, paranoid. So to get her to lighten up, he tells her that he's going to get her drunk, which he does succeed at doing. And so inside Kevin, he's in with the execs and he tells them, that he's sorry for the way that he acted and that he wishes that they would just, let him out of the contract. And at first it seems like the top guy is going to do it, and he starts telling Kevin about how he has a 2-year plan that him and his wife are going to build a house and move to did he say Tahiti or Tijuana? But they were going to move somewhere, and he was going to live out the rest of his days, being happy and just enjoying life. And he tells him, so for the next 2 years, I'm pretty much on morphine and I'm just sailing through, and these are going to be like the real easy years for me. So Kevin thinks that the guy, is going to let him out of the contract, but then the guy kind of like flips the script and lets Kevin know that he's not letting him out of the contract, and that if Kevin doesn't get back on the set, that he will pretty much have him blacklisted and he'll never work as an actor again. And so outside, Kate is drunk. I think Toby said he had given her like 10 tequila shots or something like that. And so, Kevin is trying to let her know how, that things didn't go well inside with the meeting, but she and Toby are like in the zone and they're dancing and partying and they're not paying Kevin any attention. So not having Kate to listen to his woes, Kevin decides to call Randall. And so he has a flashback of them as kids and they are getting off the bus at school. And so the kids are like waiting there and they start to taunt Kevin, about, leave Webster alone. And, you guys remember Webster was the show with Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges. And no, that wasn't Webster. Webster was the one with the other guy that had like the kidney condition that stopped him from growing, and I can't think of what his name was. He was a cute little guy. But anyway, it was that show, and he was adopted by these white people, and so they were making fun, of him in that way. And it was a real popular TV show. So I guess with the time, we have these flashbacks from the current time to back when, I guess it would have been in the late 70s when they were growing up. And so anyway, Kevin walks off with his friends and he leaves Randall there alone, by himself. And so, Randall answers the phone and he pretends like he was awake even though he was asleep. And so Kevin tells him, what's going on and asks for his advice. So at that moment, he realizes that he wasn't a really good brother to Randall and that, he has a lot of nerve calling him, asking him for advice. And so, Kate and Toby walk up, and so he tells them, tells Randall basically he needs to hang up so he can go sell his soul to the devil. And so before he hangs up, Randall, he remembers the little Big Three cheer that they used to do as kids. And so, he starts it off, and then Kevin and Kate, they do their part, and then together they yell out, the Big Three. So once they finish doing the cheer, Randall, he says to Kevin, he says, and by the way, our parents didn't raise any whores except for when Kate was going through that phase where she was wearing too much eyeliner, so they kind of laugh about that, and then they they hang up the phone. So while Randall was sleeping, Beth had slipped out of the bed and decided to take matters into her own hands. And she goes to William and asks him to leave. And so, she shares a story about Randall having some kind of like emotional breakdown or something. And I guess he went blind temporarily. And so she says that, in that moment, she realized for the first time that Randall wasn't perfect and that he has flaws like everybody else. And she tells him that Randall's vice is that his goodness, and that, he strives to be perfect. And so she wants to know, what does William do with the money that Randall is giving him and where he's going, that he's gone all day long. And so she just pretty much comes out and asks the man, are you using drugs? And if he's telling the truth about having cancer. And so Randall walks in and he stops her. And so William lets them know that I guess wherever his house is, it's like a 3-hour ride on the bus, to his apartment. And he lets them know that he goes home to his apartment because he has a cat. And that the reason he didn't tell them about the cat is because one of the girls has allergies. And he knew that if he had told Randall, that he had the kitten or the cat or whatever it is, that he would put the daughter's allergies aside and tell him to bring the cat, and that they would work something out. And so he didn't want to do that. And then he breaks down and pretty much lets them know that he doesn't want to leave, and how much he loved the girls and he loves being there with them and being a part of the family. And so then Beth is like, oh my God, I really feel like a bitch right now. And I must agree, Beth, you were being totally, I understand, this man has come in and disrupted your whole life, but I really think it wasn't your place to have that conversation with him, that Beth should have went to Randall and had Randall have the conversation, even though it would have been difficult, getting him to understand that he needed to have the conversation. I still think that should have been her first option, was to get Randall to talk to William and let Randall know that, she was ready for him to leave the house. Back at the party, Kate lets Toby know it will always be about her weight, that she's just obsessed with her weight, because she's dealt with it all her life. And like I said, earlier, we could tell that Rebecca was like really harping on her weight. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with the fact that she hasn't been able to slim down. And so she shares, what it's like to constantly wonder, like if you go somewhere, you're scared to sit in a chair because you don't know if the chair is going to be able to hold you. When you want to go somewhere and you see the perfect dress in the store, you don't want to try it on because you're afraid it's not going to fit. And she said something about, like if she ever gets pregnant, will people even be able to tell, because of all the weight. And so, Toby says all the right things to make her feel better, but I don't know how much longer this will last, because I'm thinking, if I'm with somebody, I don't care how much I love them, if they're just constantly harping on that thing that's bothering them, I think at some point it begins to impact you. And then we have to keep in mind that Toby also has a weight issue. And so I just think that it's going to be a hard balancing act. But with anything, if you really want it, you'll fight for it and endure everything that comes with it. So Kevin walks up and he lets them know that he told the execs to go screw themselves, and that he's decided that he's going to move to New York and do Broadway. Okay. So we'll see how that works out. And so the scene goes back to, the flashback of Jack, and he's asleep on the floor outside of their bedroom. And so Rebecca wakes up and she comes out and she asks him, what are you doing? Why are you sleeping out here on the floor? And so he says he doesn't like sleeping far away from her. And so since they'd had the fight, he didn't feel like he could come in the room and get in the bed. So he did the next best thing by sleeping in the hallway. And then he lets her know that he promises to stop drinking. And she tells him that he can't do it alone. And he says, for his family, he will do it, because they are everything to him. He shares a story, about not knowing what he wanted to do when he grew up. But then when he met her, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to be the man that always made her happy. And I thought that was so sweet. And then he says that from here on out, he doesn't want to be a 9, a 10, or an 11. He's going to be a 12, and he's going to be the best father and the best husband that she's ever seen. And then, he picks up the gift. Remember he had given her the, it was like a jewelry box, and she never opened it because she started, going in on him about the parenting and the drinking. And so when she opens the necklace up, it's a gold chain, and it has like a quarter moon charm on it. And so she says, she's never going to take it off. And so they start making out in the hallway, and the kids, they run out of their bedrooms and they jump on them. And it's just like a really happy family scene. And then the scene actually fades to Randall playing with his daughter and bringing her down to dinner. And so the doorbell rings, and the oldest daughter, she goes to open the door, and she announces that it's Grandma and Grandpa here. And so I'm thinking that we're finally going to see Rebecca and Jack in the modern day time, that they've aged and everything. And so, and then he says that from here on out, he doesn't want to be a 9, a 10, or an 11. He's going to be a 12, and he's going to be the best father and the best husband that she's ever seen. And then, he picks up the gift. Remember he had given her the, it was like a jewelry box, and she never opened it because she started, going in on him about the parenting and the drinking. And so when she opens the necklace up, it's a gold chain, and it has like a quarter moon charm on it. And so she says, she's never going to take it off. And so they start making out in the hallway, and the kids, they run out of their bedrooms and they jump on them. And it's just like a really happy family scene. And then the scene actually fades to Randall playing with his daughter and bringing her down to dinner. And so the doorbell rings, and the oldest daughter, she goes to open the door, and she announces that it's Grandma and Grandpa here. And so I'm thinking that we're finally going to see Rebecca and and Jack in the modern day time, that they've aged and everything. And then I was like, what the hell is going on? Because when the camera went to the scene of them coming in the house, Rebecca walks through the door and behind her was Miguel. So where's Jack? What happened to Jack? Like, oh my God, what's going on? And so, while this show is like all kinds of good, it has like complex issues, it's complicated, it's full of stuff that families are made of. And when the first episode started, Jack and Rebecca, they looked so hip and so sexy. And now that they are parents, that appeal, kind of, has worn away. And so do you think the pressures of parenthood have worn them down, or is it the fact that they had 3 kids at one time that they had to raise, so they really haven't had a chance to breathe or relax? So let's get the conversation started. Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I wish everyone a safe, happy new year. Take care. Bye-bye.